You probably know somebody whose family has roots where I am right now, in Toisan, southern Guangdong, a couple hours west of Hong Kong. This is what they call the hometown of overseas Chinese, and it was from this area, these 4 or 5 counties, that more than 2 million immigrants left to go overseas. So this is the roots of overseas Chinese culture, and it was the culture from here that became the foundation of the Chinatowns and the Chinese communities overseas that we still see today.
Some people say that Toisan is where chop suey is from, though that's debatable. But this is definitely where the original founders of many of the world's Chinatowns are from. I came to see what the food culture is like today, and I brought a few friends from the area to help me understand what I was seeing. But first, some background. In the 1800s, the situation here was rough. Famine, floods, wars with the Hakka clans. Toisan is near the coast, and people from here were already used to leaving, usually to Southeast Asia. But with the gold rushes in the US, Canada, and Australia, those migration patterns shifted, and thousands of young men streamed out of Toisan, looking for a better life overseas. They didn't always find it. Many worked impossibly hard jobs, building the Transcontinental Railroad in the US or working on guano mines in Peru, and they faced blatant racism and exclusion. So a lot of them longed to go home if and when they could retire, and they began sending money back for their relatives still in Toisan. They bought land and built houses, but not just any houses. The situation at home was still hard, with roving gangs and bandits. So the families at home built vertical safe houses, fortified with reinforced concrete and strong iron doors. On the roofs, they had gun turrets to defend themselves. Regular communities pooled their resources to build plain safe houses that they shared, but the wealthier families built their own. And here's where things start to get interesting. Anthropologists called Toisan an import culture, as opposed to migrants from Chaoshan, another part of Guangdong, who exported their own culture across Southeast Asia. In Toisan, the people who returned brought back overseas culture with them, and many added Western architecture to their safe houses. Domes, Islamic arches, Greek or Roman columns. Many wore Western clothes and shoes, incorporated English into the Toisan dialect, and bought Western toilets and cast iron bathtubs, unheard of in the Guangdong countryside 100 years ago. I wondered if I could find that in the food, but first I had to go for eel rice. Rice is really the foundation of Toisan's cooking in every form, from variations on clay pot rice to dumplings and noodles made with ground rice. Its most famous dish uses freshwater yellow eels, the kind that they once raised in the rice paddies, cooked with the area's famous rice. It's everyone's first stop in Toisan. A lot has changed in Toisan since the first immigrants went overseas, but it's easy to imagine that this isn't one of them. Rice in Guangdong is deeply tied to the culture.
Guangdong is one of my favorite places to eat in China. It's got this incredible geography. It's got the ocean and all the things that come from the ocean, all the wonderful fish and crustaceans and all of that. And then you have the farmland, and in the farmland you've got fantastic rice, you have ducks, you have freshwater eels, you have chickens, and then you have the mountain area, and you have a lot of tubers that come from that area, and a lot of roots and a lot of forage things. So there's really a remarkable diversity of ingredients to work with here.
Bill Feng is the chef at Lingnan House at Guangzhou's 5-star Rosewood Hotel. He's a master of the cuisine from Guangzhou and that part of the province, which sort of extends to Toisan. His cooking is the big city, refined version of the food that you find in rural Guangdong, and his produce comes from across the region. Of course, the dishes he serves build on regional ingredients. Things like Toisan's oysters, its dried seafood, its special chicken foot taro, to make the kind of upscale Cantonese cooking that has won Lingnan House a Michelin star. So I wanted to take him with me to Toisan's biggest market to see what cooks in this part of Guangdong have to work with.
So this stuff would have been really foundational to the cooking in Guangdong, all the dry seafood. So this is like, you go into a market in Chinatown, they might have one thing or two things like this, maybe a little bit of dried shrimp, but this is like the buffet. It's like the dry seafood buffet. Got like all the different sizes of whitefish, all the different types of shrimp, some with shells, some with soft shells, some with no shells, smoked oysters, dry mussels, all the little dry fish, big dry fish. Oh, wow. See, this one still has the hook in its mouth?
Toisan 嘅街市有咁多嘅品種齊全嘅品種咧，就係因為廣東人包括台山人好中意啲原始嘅材料傳統嘅食材攞嚟煮食，
煲湯好味啲嘛，
用嚟煲湯。廣東人咧就係中意啲咁樣。
你去超市嗰度就冰鮮㗎嘛，冰鮮嗰啲食材就冇咁新鮮，即係煲啖湯都冇咁好㗎咯。
而家係咩蠔種啊？
依家呢個
黃蠔。現在是黃蠔，冬天是白蠔。
白蠔是最漂亮。
這是我是嗎？
這個是本地的，這個很甜，但是又很小，很甜的這種。
可以，等一下可以試一試。
這個它價格不貴，但是肉很小，但是很甜，這種甜度，我覺得比新西蘭的甜太多了。有可能新西蘭的它因為運輸有可能就加重了鹽，但這種本地的很甜。
The market was incredible, one of the best I've been to in China. But that's not what the immigrants overseas would have had to cook with. Instead, they had to substitute this kind of stuff with what they could find in the Americas to recreate the flavors of home. Western broccoli, for example, instead of Cantonese vegetables. That substitution and adaptation, often by laborers who weren't necessarily chefs, formed the earliest overseas Chinese food. After the morning market, we went for breakfast.
We're at this really old school tea house in Toisan. This tea house has been here for like 100 years. There's just a few things on the menu. Rice noodles, kind of every way, little rice dumplings, and a couple stir-fried dishes. And this is part of the Toisan culture that didn't really get exported. This really deep rice culture. As we're driving around, the fields are really vibrant green.
Toisan 它有黄鳝饭，它有它自己的海鲜，还有它其实还有那个水部的牛肉，还有广海的鸡，其实都是很有名的。台山其实是一个，就是他们在武义，就是这个地区里面还算对吃还是有它自己的特色，它算一个地方的特色。你一说黄鳝饭，它基本上我们都会想起了台山，因为其他地方它是没有这个做法的。
The import culture is easy to see in the buildings, harder to see in its food. But after a few days in Toisan, we finally found a trace of it in an unlikely place.
the food's been exported and has kind of become the foundation of food in Chinatowns all over the world. But here we are, like on a small street in the countryside of Toisan, and we find waffles that have Cantonese sausage inside, taro, salted egg yolk. This one is aged orange peel inside, and they're not sweet. They look like waffles. They look like the waffles I grew up with, but they're really a Cantonese taste. And even more than a Cantonese taste, these ones in particular are kind of a Toisan taste, because they have waffles in Hong Kong. They have these little egg waffles, these little sweet bubbles, and that's pretty common. But to see this type of like round, sort of Belgian-looking waffle, but have it really be Cantonese flavors, is, for me, is really the perfect story. It encapsulates the whole immigration story and the kind of cultural exchange story in one little dish, in one little street snack.
By the 1940s, with World War II, the building boom in this area came to a total stop. And after the People's Republic of China was founded in 1949, Toisan became a lot more stable. People no longer needed to live in these vertical safe houses. Today it's a magical looking landscape, with countless old safe houses and villas in almost every village, decaying in the hot Guangdong sun. And it's also a reminder of how many people left their homes to set up new lives in the rest of the world and never came back. Toisan isn't famous for its food, no matter how delicious I think it is. It's famous for something much larger. The people from this area brought Chinese culture to the rest of the world, and at the same time brought some of the rest of the world's culture back to Toisan, whether through the way they built their buildings or eating waffles. It came at a huge cost, but they set up the diaspora. They built the railroads, and they opened the first Chinese restaurants. So next time you eat at a Chinese restaurant or go shopping in a Chinatown, wherever you are, remember, this is where it all came from.